What's up, YouTube? Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you all had a lovely one with your families. It's been a while since I posted an update of anything. I've just been busy getting ready for Christmas. Got sick before Christmas. Then had Christmas festivities, celebrations. Anyways, back in the garage. And I figured I'd post an update video about my other car. The car that, if you've been subscribed to my channel for over 5, 6, 7 years, you'd know the channel by, and that's my 1971 Plymouth Scamp here. So the last time this car saw the road and a track was, I believe, 2015 or 2016. It has been a while. And long story short, when I ended up moving into where I am now, kind of parked the car to focus on doing some renovations. Got a little bit difficult to spend money on racing, and that was really my prime goal with this car, was racing, even though I was still driving it on the street. I ended up selling the motor out of it, and then it just got easier for me to get onto motorcycles and ride. It was pretty much gas up and go, even though I was modifying them here and there, but compared to working on cars, it was a breeze. It was also a lot cheaper. So I spent a lot of time on motorcycles in the meantime, and the car kind of sat. So if you watch any of the other videos, it used to be a small block stroker with a light shot of nitrous. The car was nothing super impressive, but it did work well for what it was. But that engine's long gone, and I can talk more about that engine or that combo at some point if people are interested. But the best that combination went, and I was not even spraying it really to where I wanted it to be, but on, I believe it was a 63 jet and a cheater plate, which is like, I think a 150 hit, it went 628. So it did pretty consistent, like 627, 628, but I say 628 because that's where it usually landed. So it went up, a hundredth faster at one point, but so 620s we'll call it. Pump gas, even on spray. Car was always ran on 93 octane because I kind of wanted it always to be the way the car went down the strip is the way I drove it on the street. And that's exactly really what it was. I just removed the subwoofer from the trunk because whenever I launched, it would go flying to the back of the trunk. So literally that was all I did. But anyways, that combo was gone. Car sat for a number of years, as I said. And I got the itch, obviously, to get it going again. But, as everyone knows, I would say in the last 3-4 years, prices of stuff for building cars has just skyrocketed. And again, with the Mopar tax, if you're a Mopar guy, you'll understand. Every Mopar guy thinks they had the last piece of gold on earth. So do the manufacturers, apparently. But anyways, I ended up coming across a really good deal for a Gen 3 Hemi. Now, I knew I wanted the car to either be Gen 3 Hemi after I got rid of the small block, or a big block, like a big stroker big block. And I would still like to build one of those big blocks one day, maybe for the wagon at some point down the road. But I came across a really good deal on a 5.7 Hemi. It was still in a car. It was running. Bought it off a guy named Chris. Great guy. And it was in I think it was an 07 or 08 Charger with a Edelbrock blower on top, like a Root style. And I think he was going 1070s or 1080s in a full weight street car. Stock crank. I believe it's got aftermarket rods and it's got a forged piston in it. I think compression is around 10.2 or 10.5. I'd have to look at the notes that I have for it from when we conversed. This was, a few years back now. I have had this engine sitting here for a while. I'll get back to that. But ported heads by Thytech, the stock 5.7 heads, ported by Thytech. So I got the whole engine for a great deal. I got to hear it run before they pulled it from the car. And I had a core truck motor, which is sitting over there underneath that white box under the shelf. So I had an intake. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do back then. And then a little while later, a friend of mine had a customer with a Dodge Ram with a Hemi and a Procharger on it. And he wanted to get rid of the Procharger. So I got a used Procharger kit for a 5.7 Hemi for a Dodge Ram. And when I say I got it for a screaming deal, I got it for a screaming deal. It was originally a P1 SC blower. So I bought the blower setup. Came with bracketry, belts, you know, the works. Literally the whole kit. Injectors, everything. And at first my goal was, okay, you know what? I'll take this truck timing cover off of my core motor sitting back there, because if you know anything about these Hemis, the Gen 3 Hemis, the trucks use a different timing cover than the cars. The trucks have this high mount alternator here. The cars, I believe they mounted somewhere lower. I can't remember what side it's on, but I believe in these chassis, I could be wrong, there's potential interference with the frame. But regardless, I had a truck blower kit in my hands now, so I needed a truck timing cover. So I pulled it off of the core motor there. And originally I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to get this thing running with a carburetor maybe, do a blow-through setup, and then I thought, what the heck. You know, I wasn't in a rush to get this thing back together. I was kind of piecing it together as I could afford to. So I decided, I'm going to go EFI. So I ended up buying a Holley Terminator setup on Black Friday. Took a little while to ship, but I eventually got it. And then that's when things kind of snowballed a bit. You know, I went back and forth about using an aftermarket intake, but to keep costs down, I had this intake that's sitting on the engine right now. I had it on that core motor, so I went with that. I ended up going with a better injector. I believe they're FICs. I can't remember what size they are, but they're supposed to be good to, based on the calculations on their website, they're supposed to be good to 1,200 horsepower on gasoline, not E85 boosted. These D1s, which is, I don't know if I said it already, this is now a D1X I got it upgraded to. From what I know, they kind of max out anywhere between 900 to 1,100 horsepower, and I think 1,100 is really the high side where guys are overspinning them. So yeah, that's really the extent of the engine. So, you know, along the way, certain things changed. So, you know, I mounted the blower here. I ended up, and it's not in the car right now, it's actually over here on the bench, but I ended up having to create my own piping, charge piping. Not perfect. I welded this myself with a flux core welder that I caught from Amazon for $130 shipped to my door. Actually, the day after I bought it, the price went up by like $100. It was kind of funny. Anyways, it took me a while to do this. I am not a fabricator. I considered getting people that I know who are fabricators to do it, but again, in the name of budget and also just wanting to be able to say I did it myself, I took the time needed and I fabricated it myself. So it's not on the car, but it fits quite well. The welds are not perfect. I did burn through. Again, it was flux core. I'm not a welder, but you know, it cleaned up pretty nice. I'm happy with how it turned out once test fitted. And you might be wondering, why is there so much piping? So I do have an intercooler set up for the car. So I decided to go with an air to water setup. So this is a Rhodes Race Cars tank. It's got a pump in it. I got dash 16 fittings. And that's actually what I'm doing out here tonight is I'm finishing running one of the lines, the last line, to the intercooler itself. The intercooler itself, I believe it's a frozen boost. Maybe it's the model 26. But it is mounted in the driver's side fender here. So, let me see if I can get in there to show you guys. I'm not really... Yeah, it's not getting a good angle here, but it's in there. I can do a more detailed video one day at some point with how I did that if people are interested. So that charge piping is coming down out of the blower here. It runs in behind the bumper into the air-to-water intercooler and then comes out here and into the throttle body. There's really not a lot left to do with this car. In fact, I probably could have had it running this summer, but I had my son late June, and to be honest, first-time dad, it was busy, and I wanted to be around. I spent a lot of time with him, right? You don't get those, you don't get that time back, right? They're only that small once, and nonetheless, it was great, but really, I'm almost done with this car. I got to finish wiring up the Holly. And really, the only reason I'm not finished is because I suck at wiring. So my dad is the one that helps me wire this, and I think we've only worked on it twice, and it was a long time ago. But part of why this is something, and we got it all mounted up here. It's not done yet. But this is kind of what it's looking like. So you can see the ECU over there. We really did not get very far. It was more a lot of planning, mounting. But part of why I haven't really tackled the wiring myself is I'm not very good at it, I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about it. I try to learn. And I'm just not the greatest with it. It sounds silly, but I'm just being honest. The other thing is I wanted to take advantage of the outputs on the Holly Terminator to run PWM on my electric fans, which is pulse width modulation, as well as PWM on my fuel pump. So that's another thing. I had to upgrade fuel pump line size. I'm running an AEM. I believe it's their, what do they call it? Their 340 GPH. I should get a light. Pump. And to be honest, now in hindsight, I'm thinking I might actually need 2 pumps, but we'll see how it goes with 1 pump. And with the current pulley size on the blower, how much boost it'll run, or it'll have, I should say. What else? It's got TTI headers. I looked at a whole bunch of pictures of Gen 3 Hemis and A bodies. Didn't look too bad. And maybe I'm just being a whiner, but those were probably the hardest header bolts I've ever had to access. Just a pain. It was doable, but just took a long time. Headers fit pretty nice, though. I ended up going with the Holly swap oil pan. Got an Innovators West dampener on there. Transmission. So the last combo, believe it or not, I was running the little 904. All these guys that tell you 904s aren't strong, they don't know what they're talking about, honestly. Stop listening to guys on the internet who haven't done anything. I'm no pioneer by any means, but the guys you should be paying attention to, even if you're building something mild when you're looking for advice, is guys who have raced and who have done it. And I say raced because racing puts a lot of abuse and stress on parts. So this is a 3,400 pound car. Based on the weight of it, And yeah, it's heavy. I know some of you guys say, how is it 3,400 pounds? But it's all steel, besides the bumpers and hood. It's got a mild steel 8-point bar in the car, which is not light. And I'm also not light. So the car is about 3,400 pounds. That block was also hard block. That added some weight. So not the lightest car, not the lightest wheels. Right? This was a street car. I really like street strip stuff. So that was, the car is still going to be that way. But anyways, based on the weight and the power, the car, let's say it was making between 700 to 750 at the crank, right? 3,400 pounds. I was leading off the trans brake at anywhere between 3,500 to 4,000 RPM. And I beat the crap out of this thing at the track, leaving on the button too, like on the spray, okay? Again, only a 63 jet, but still, nitrous does hit hard, especially when you're leaving off a trans brake. And in all of the time that I had that transmission in this car, the only thing I ever broke once was a planetary, and that wasn't even on a nitrous pass. But I replaced the planetary. I think I twisted the splines on, I guess it was not was it the input or the output shaft? I can't remember, but I have a couple of 904 cores. I just pulled some replacement parts out of that, and it was not a fancy transmission. It had a trans brake, just good clutch, like good setup, one extra clutch and steel in the front drum. The 904s are not prone to the explosions that the 727s are, because of the diameter of the drum. But what I'm getting at is it was not a fancy transmission. I always took care of it, and it ran great. I sold it running, like it was a working transmission. I wish I kept it, actually. But if you hear these guys saying that a 904 won't live behind 400 horsepower, you need a 727, it's all BS, man. And they're worth about, from what I know, some guys pick up to 3/10 swapping from a 727 to a 904. So if you're a small block guy, 904, man. But with this combo here, I'm shooting a little higher. So I went with a 727, very lightly built. It's got a non-low band apply trans brake. I got a good deal on it used. A deep summit pan. I rebuilt it with a rebuild kit from, I can't remember where it was from. But again, extra clutch and steel in the front drum. It is a stock front drum. I know it's not ideal, but on a budget, I'm smart with my burnouts. Eventually I'll upgrade. I wanted to go turbo 400, and the initial cost to do it was crazy. It was expensive. And then when I finally got my converter here from PTC, after the cost for a 727 converter and the shipping and exchange here to Canada, which I almost had a heart attack when that converter arrived and I paid for it and everything, I should have just gone turbo 400. But that might happen at a later date. We'll see. But that's the basic setup right now. So what's left? I got to go over things. I got to finish. I got the wrong throttle cable here, like a goofball. I ordered the wrong one. I got to get a proper belt, so I got to measure for a belt because I did eliminate power steering and air conditioning. I need a lower rad hose for it. Still have not found one that works yet, so I got to bend up a coat hanger, bring with me to the auto parts store, get that done up. Got to finish the wiring. Got to shorten my drive shaft. I've already got a 1350 strange chromoly yoke for the transmission, and I got a 1350 U-joint on my Dana. Dana's got 35 spline axles with a power lock, 410 gears, which is going to be staying because it's going to be set up for running in the 8th mile. So, I mean, I've been piecing this together slowly now over, I would say, 3.5 years, maybe 4 years. But, things are expensive, right? And then time. It took me a long time to fabricate the charge piping. But I'm not a fabricator. But I can honestly say I'm happy, for the most part, with how it turned out. It's not perfect. The welds are not TIG welds. But I'm happy that I can say I did it myself. It kind of feels good. So that's the plan. I'm hoping that this thing will be out in the spring of 2024. I'm looking forward to learning the ropes of EFI. It's completely new to me. I've never tuned before with EFI. I've never had a car with boost, so it's all new to me. I'm a bit nervous, but at the same time, I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping, I mean, I've seen guys now with stock Hemis, like stock 5.7 Hemis, slapping a turbo on it, and they're running single digits in the quarter mile. Like, you know, they're deep into the sixes. Some of them are into the fives, in the eighth. So really, there's absolutely no reason, in my opinion, that this thing should not be making between 800 to 1,000 horsepower at the crank. And I think with the right tune-up, it should be able to live, still be able to drive it on the street. Yeah. So I am looking forward to it. So that's the update on the Scamp. It's still here. It never left. I will never be getting rid of this car. I bought it when I was 19. I built it with my dad in my parents' garage. It's had many different iterations under the hood of engine and transmission. But I just love this thing, man. It's never going anywhere. It's paid for. It'll sit if it has to, but it's never going anywhere. Part of the reason why I bought a wagon is because back when I did the cage in it, or the roll bar, I said, I don't need a back seat. Who needs a back seat? So I sent the bars through that back seat. So it's only 2 seats now. So no room for baby seat. Plus, it'd be a pain to get a baby seat back there anyways, even if there was a back seat and I had different rear down bars. So that's the update on the Scamp. If you guys have any questions about the combo, about what I decided to run with it, I know a lot of people say no air-to-water intercoolers on the street, but I did a lot of research. I have my reasons for going for it. I think it will be better than the air-to-air, especially at the track. It makes a larger difference. If you have any questions about the old combo that was in the car, again, it was nothing special, but it was super streetable. I beat the snot out of that motor. If it had a better cam in it, I probably would have made a good 30 to 50 horsepower more with it, for sure. I'm kind of upset that I sold that motor and didn't take more advantage of trying to squeeze more out of that combo. But it is what it is. Here we are. Gen 3 Hemi life. So that's all for now, guys. I know it looks like a bit of a mess, but it's going to get all tidied up sooner rather than later, and hopefully be making some passes soon. So stay tuned.